welcome to Afterthoughts, everybody. This is our recommend or refute episode. You know how these go. We watch something previously and we want to bring it to you. We want to tell you you should watch it, or if you should just, fucking bury it somewhere. Don't go near that bad juju. I am your host, John Garcia. With me, as always,
Brian King. Actually, spent some time watching things around the holidays. I actually get to sit down and watch shit.
Hey.
Yeah. And Michael Dixon over here.
Yeah, excited to talk with you guys about what we watched this week. I think we got some fun items this week to dive into.
Yeah, and we'll kick things off with Ryan, who has a follow-up report for you. Breaking news, everybody. We're following up on something.
We talked previously about watching Scott Pilgrim, and that was kind of in anticipation of the new Netflix Canada anime.
Canada?
Yes, that release, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off.
The girl of my dreams? It's time to wake up, dude. I had a dream about that girl again.
I didn't care the first time you told me. Care even less now.
Toronto, Canada. Not too long ago.
Hey, wanna go out sometime?
You want to go on a date with me?
Ramona Flowers has 7 evil exes, all of whom you must defeat in order to date her.
What?
I mean, we had just watched Scott Pilgrim, and I kind of was enjoying myself, and I was like, oh, I'll watch it. And it's the original voice cast returning, and I kind of did not know what I was going in for. I hadn't read anything, and I don't think they really released much material about it other than, hey, the voice cast is back and the music that they had in there. And I ended up watching all of it in one day because the second episode just fucking shocked me enough that I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And then I kind of was just locked in for the ride.
How long are the episodes?
I don't know. I actually honestly
like
just 20,
all like 20
day,
minutes
like
or like an hour?
He sounds like he was on
clue.
drugs when he said that.
Yes.
How long are the episodes? I don't know. I just put them in my body. I just need them.
I was this an all-day thing that you're just like entire day
Yes.
you're sitting there, or was this like their 22 minutes with commercials and you just kind of like whipped through it in a few hours?
I was cleaning the house and I just turned it on. I just kept cleaning the house, so I don't
Just
have no
watching
idea.
out of the corner of your eye while you're
I don't know how
vacuuming.
many episodes. Yeah, I don't know how many episodes it is. I don't know how long each episode was. It was enough that you can spend an afternoon cleaning the house. So that's
okay.
What was that?
There you go.
I don't think they could have been hour-long episodes because I think that would have taken a lot longer.
It's 8 episodes according to IMDb.
Yeah, I think it's like only 8. So yeah, it isn't too much. You can get through it pretty quickly. If you're into Scott Pilgrim, go watch it. Pause, come back because I want to talk about it a little bit. If you're thinking about watching it, if you're thinking about watching it, pause, go look at it or whatever. I do think that you would have a better appreciation for what it is and what it's doing if you've watched the movie or read the comic. I guess the comic would still work, but it definitely references movie-specific stuff and having all the voice actors back and all that. Like, this is supposed to be you've watched the movie and now you're watching this. The first episode is just straight up like the beginning of the movie. We set up all the characters. The gags are relatively similar. They do the bit in the bedroom with like Wallace's shit and Scott's thing, like exactly the same. And we kind of just like getting established into it. The second episode leads into the fight. That's the first fight for Scott, and he loses, and he's immediately turned into coins. And then the rest of the fucking show happens. And yeah, right then I was like, I don't understand what's going on. And that episode just kept going. And like people were reacting to him being dead. They have a fucking funeral for Scott Pilgrim.
Shit.
Matthew Patel goes on and beats Gideon and takes over his corporation. And like it just keeps going for like episode after episode.
Okay.
Holy shit,
like
that's
following
rad.
Ramona Flowers around. Like it's mainly the Ramona Flowers show. And then it gets into these like meta-textual moments where they end up creating a movie in the Scott Pilgrim universe that is the Scott Pilgrim where Scott Pilgrim wins. and
Holy
and then
fuck.
they're like casting that movie, and of course,
Lucas
what's
Lee
his name?
shows up.
Lucas Lee is in the Scott Pilgrim role in the movie. Like it just gets more and more bizarre kind of as it goes on. And then like kind of partway through, we get a few hints that Scott's alive and that he didn't die. It appears he was teleported out with vegan powers, and we slowly try to like piece it together. So it's a while piecing it together. They get to vegan powers, and then it turns out it's not the vegan that we know. It's not his vegan powers. And kind of in the last few episodes, we revealed that Scott Pilgrim of the future came back in time and made Scott Pilgrim lose because
Ryan
Scott
loves
Pilgrim of the
timeline.
future, yes, is disgruntled because he breaks up with Ramona Flowers because their relationship is built on fucking nothing.
Yeah.
And they've been like fickle and fight all the time and feel like they're meant for each other, but just constantly like break up and get together and break up and get together. And he just isn't, it shouldn't happen. Um, and then we proceed to spend some episodes of like fighting like old Scott and coming back and kind of resetting the universe and doing things. But like mainly Ramona has all the fights that are in the original instead of Scott, which is better. It's something else. And in them, they actually explore a little bit more of like the relationships, those characters, like any character that got shit on in the movie of like barely any time and not well represented as a character gets a lot of time and well represented as a character. And like Scott Pilgrim is on the side for most of the show. Like it is a really absolutely different thing.
Wow.
And then it just goes off the rails at the end because we have an even older old Scott Pilgrim comes back in time because old Scott Pilgrim and young Scott Pilgrim fucked it up. And they actually do like what we were talking about in Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, where it's like old young Neil is like in there. There's like
we predicted the future.
Yes. There's like old Scott Pilgrim and shit like that. And like so it honestly like it was pretty funny. I think if you just watched this and had nothing in Scott Pilgrim, it would be fucking confusing and bizarre
It sounds
as
that
to
way.
what was going on. And it was the constant like upending of everything Scott Pilgrim that made it work. And even like they even lampshade the he's in a relationship with a teenager even more by having in the in the production meta movie, Lucas Lee as Scott Pilgrim ends up dating the girl that's playing Knives in the movie, who's not a teenager but is playing a teenager, and everyone decides even that's creepy. And the paparazzi is then like immediately all over him, and he loses like his career because he's dating a person that's playing a teenager.
An underage.
Yes.
Wow. I gotta fucking watch
That's
this. I gotta fucking
Yeah.
watch this.
I will say, like, I'm still not even touching on all like the twists and funny things like that. I mean, kind of like generally spoils like what it is, that like the episode 2 shock. But there still is like a lot of things where they just play with stuff and they give everybody a lot of runtime. It seems like they're leaving it open to a second season, I guess, that would just like explore even more of the characters in the universe. I think they've got a good carte blanche now. Like they've actually gone in and kind of like resurrected Scott Pilgrim and fixed a lot of the things from the movie, and even some of the things that were a little questionable from the comics, and just kind of created a new property almost that reinvents it. It's interesting because I feel like this is kind of happening in a few different things. The recent Final Fantasy VII remake game is also kind of that way, where it's like an alternate-ish version that gets more unraveled as the games go on. We talked about in a light mention, I don't know if we actually talked about it in the episode, but the Evangelion 3.1 plus 1.0. I don't know what's happening in these movies anymore. Yeah, no,
You lost
right.
me. I blacked out.
Yeah, those have been remaking and retelling its story over and over in a way that's completely confusing and upending itself over and over. So it's like that is kind of a thing that started to happen. So it's like, interesting for like it to work for something like Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
How is the voice cast? Like you talked about everybody's back. Is it weird that everybody is now like 13 years older than they were? Or like they're playing characters that are much younger. Like, does Michael Cera sound like an old man as Scott Pilgrim now? Like, how does that work?
It works. I actually think they all played off. They sound like who they were in the movie. They kind of are able to get back into who the character is, I think, well. In fact, I actually think it's an interesting Scott Pilgrim because it's not just straight up Michael Cera. Like he is actually trying to do a little bit. It doesn't just sound like Michael Cera. Weirdly, the future Scott Pilgrims are Will Forte. Who's great because because he's great. So that's perfectly
he is great,
fine.
but he doesn't sound anything like Michael Cera. So that's
but he's supposed to be old,
much older,
like really much older Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Instead of having him do a fucking Markle voice for his old man.
Yes, yeah. Michael Cera could have done it. Maybe it'd have been interesting. I don't know. The choice was something different. But everybody else, I'm like they're really solid and they just get to do a lot more and it works well. I don't know that really many of them have done any voice acting before. I know Alison Brie has. And so she's
Alison Brie's in this?
Well, she's Envy, so she's like back again as Envy Adams. Oh, not Alison
Brie Larson.
Brie Larson. you.
Oh boy.
Oh wow.
I think Alison Brie has done some voice acting too.
Oh yeah.
Is this the
Brie
best
Larson has done
Brie
some.
Larson performance of the year?
Oh yeah, like she's still so tilted in the Marvels, and she gets to do something here. She doesn't get to sing. I thought that was interesting. I kind of think I know why they did it. Because she does sing the Metric song in the movie.
Yeah.
But here they actually have Metric come back and perform their song, and then Envy Adams sings "I Will Remember You" at Scott Pilgrim's funeral. And that's also sung by the lead singer of Metric, so it's not her, but otherwise she voices
weird.
through.
Wow.
Yeah, she's got a good voice.
She gets
It's
to
weird
be
that they wouldn't
animated.
want her to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, she gets to be animated and over the top and actually do something with the character. So no, it was good.
Yeah,
Nice.
it was the soundtrack as well, like because the Scott Pilgrim movie soundtrack was pretty great. Was this as notable or kind of like, it's all right?
I think it's all right.
It's on Monoguchi, so
right. It's much more chip tunes throughout it. Right, there's sort of more of a kind of continuous music that is the chip tone music. There are a few. There's like one pretty comical version where in the future the twins and Scott Pilgrim are buddies and they have their little shitty band now that they do together, and they have an absolutely perfect but horrible sort of like Japanese pop song with like English vocals that are added in that make no sense, like that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
That's like perfect, and that song is really great. The opening title is really great. I like the garbage truck song from the movie, honestly, a lot. The song here is like fine, but it's more of like an actual song. There's something about garbage trucks lyrics and shittiness that's like so wonderful in the original.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of like it is its new thing, and it fits more with like a video game theme, and they do some more video game things because it's animated. So it definitely works for what it is. It's not quite as good as the movie soundtrack.
Okay. Sounds like the story and the animation like more than make up for that. It's not like a big detractor.
Right. Yeah. And this is a much more like crazy over the top, show. The fighting is even more over the top. Like there's just so much more they can do. And to that point that like I'm sitting there watching it going, why did they make this into a live action movie? Right. There's sort of that like you watch certain things like this that get converted over comics and you just wonder like why do that? And because then it just limits yourself when you have such a wide open door to just be completely bizarre, especially with something where you have like vegan teleportation powers that you're like, oh, that needs to be live action. Let's do that.
Yeah. Just giving the special effects department more work to do. But yeah. Well, cool. So you're recommending it, obviously?
I recommend it. It has to be you've already watched the Scott Pilgrim movie or read the comics. I think without it, it's nonsense. But I think if you watch the movie, you'll appreciate it. And it just is like kind of a fun, different thing. I'm really fascinated by the take of like, hey, let's do Scott Pilgrim and pretend we're going to do Scott Pilgrim, quote, right, from the movie, but then instead do something else entirely different that also is right in some way.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It sounds to me like on the one hand, oh, that sounds cool. Like they're taking Scott out of the story and talking about how he's a piece of shit. But also it sounds really, really meta and like the time travel stuff. And it's like I'm torn in two on like I might really like this and I might really hate this. So I'm not really sure where I fall based on your description.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very meta. That's why I was like, I think you have to have seen the movie.
Sure. Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, it's just a bizarre
you need a foundation to understand what this might be. Yeah. Cool. Well, Dixon, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so before I talk about my recommended Refute movie, I do have a quick follow-up. Ryan, you recommended The Marvels a week or two ago, and I saw that last night, and dear Lord, it sucked ass. I don't know how you could have recommended that. I now question your taste just generally.
I gave it like a pass, though. I didn't say it was like Black Panther.
I know you barely gave it a
Still,
recommend.
but the fact that the scale tipped in favor.
Just nonsensical green screen horse shit, the whole movie. It made no sense whatsoever. Terrible script, terrible visuals. Like, there was not one shot of the movie that was in a real place. Literally the whole thing was on green screen.
It's all outer space shit.
Yeah. I thought like Brie Larson did what she could. I thought the rest of the cast was pretty awful, but like they all just don't have much to do with what's on the page. Like the script is really bad, and like the movie just can't really ascend beyond that. It is just like a weight holding it down, and it's just we're all gonna shoot lasers out of our hands, and everything's green screen, and none of this makes any sense. And frantic editing because the CGI is bad, and so we need to try to cover that up. And like, it's just, dear Lord, it sucked really hard. I feel bad that Brie Larson had to do it.
Oh,
one of the worst movies of the year so far. I don't know if that or Indiana Jones is my least favorite movie of the year so far, but they suck for similar reasons.
You know, it's the good thing here is that if it's a really bad movie and they don't want Brie Larson back for a while, that like it's not a career-ending kind of movie. Like there's
it's
you
definitely
can
not.
absolutely throw this. You know, it's like Jake LaMotta. You know, you could throw this and you'd have your own nightclub the next week.
You never knock me down. You never knock me down.
I do have an important question since you've watched it.
Okay.
Her husband and that entire planet's fucking dead, right? They never come back to that.
I'm sorry. Whose husband?
Brie Larson's husband.
Oh,
Captain Marvel's husband.
I forgot she has like a tax purpose marriage with like some sort of alien creature on a water
Switzerland?
planet.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, he's dead. She doesn't give a shit. Yeah,
they teleport off that planet and they never come back to check back on them, and they all got their water sucked away into a black hole.
Yep. Dear Lord, stupid ass movie. Anyway, I did watch a good movie this week. Earlier this week, I was out with some friends having some drinks and came home, and I was too drunk to watch a new movie. And so I was like, I need to watch something that I've seen before, but that's gonna like give me some good vibes. And I decided to put in the Simpsons movie from 2007.
20th Century Fox presents the greatest Simpsons family adventure of all time. On July 27th,
President Schwarzenegger.
That is me.
Springfield has reached crisis levels. I've narrowed your choices down to 5 unthinkable options.
I was elected to lead, not to read.
When disaster threatens our world,
they're going to destroy Springfield.
One family will show everyone what they're made of.
This is the worst day of my life.
The worst day of your life so far.
Now,
I declare a state of emergency.
Time.
Dad, do something.
This book doesn't have any answers.
Is
what? Tell us.
Running out.
Did I save the day?
Actually, you doomed us all.
Go! Oh.
How did the pig tracks get on the ceiling?
Spider Pig does whatever a spider pig does.
The Simpsons Movie.
Look out, he is a spider pig.
I have seen this movie many times, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. It's probably been 9-10 years since I've actually watched it. But like I had the DVD as soon as it came out. I saw it in theaters a couple times, got the DVD when it came out, watched it a bunch, and it was fun to go back to it. And if you are a longtime listener of this podcast and you are familiar with the Simpsons television show, you will know that the three of us drop random Simpsons quotes in almost every episode and do not even like hint that it is from the Simpsons. We just all know and we laugh and move on. So, the Simpsons watching history is useful to pick up on some of our little inside gags on this podcast. But I thought this would be a fun opportunity to talk about the Simpsons movie in kind of a format that would make sense for us to actually discuss it, because the TV show is just there's so many episodes and it's just gotten terrible at this point. I do think that like the first 11 seasons of The Simpsons are just fucking incredible television, like just really good. Like it's a classic sitcom, animated and made edgier than what was going on in the 80s and 90s at the time, but it's just so well done and so cleverly written. And it's got just such interesting characters, and they build this town in such a fascinating way, and all the people that live there. And the first 11 seasons are great. I think season 13 is where it kind of stops for me. Like that's the season where Maude dies, and I love that episode. And so like that's kind of to me where like this Simpsons kind of ends, and then everything beyond that, whatever, take it or leave it. But the one shining moment of that, after that in The Simpsons to me is the movie. I really enjoyed the Simpsons movie. I think it led to kind of some shitty Simpsons TV seasons afterward. Like the movie was the first time they put in digital animation, and I thought it worked really well in the movie with some of the things that they were doing. But in the show, when they're using it later, it just feels like, I don't know, less personal and less kind of like the show originally was very scrappy and kind of poorly drawn. Like it, not to the degree of like South Park, but that hadn't happened yet, right? And it felt kind of crude in the way that it was put together at the time. And now it feels almost too polished now.
Yeah, I've seen like screens from the new seasons, and it just looks so odd. It's like they ran it through like an AI upscaler or something.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, ever since Harry Shearer left, like that was very upsetting when like Harry Shearer wanted to like strike for more money, and all the other actors threw him under the bus, and he quit. And now they just have random other people do the voices of his characters, and they don't even credit whoever those actors are that are doing those voices. They just pretend that Harry Shearer doesn't exist anymore, which fucking sucks. But I do really like the Simpsons movie. So if you haven't seen the Simpsons movie, the premise of the story is that Springfield is an incredibly polluted town. And Lisa, as she is wont to do, goes on a crusade to clean up Lake Springfield because there's so much pollution in the lake. And, obviously, like in early Simpsons seasons, we have like the three-eyed fish coming out of the lake, and all the nuclear waste is going in there. And it's creating this very toxic environment. And so Lisa goes through this epic campaign to stop polluting in Lake Springfield and to clean up the town. They're able to successfully do that until Homer decides to adopt a pig named Spider Pig. Spider Pig does whatever a spider pig does. Can he swing from a web? No, he can't. He's a pig. Look out, it's Spider Pig.
And then he's Harry Plopper the next
day. Then he becomes Harry Plopper, which is hilarious. Just that song is so funny to me because like he's a spider pig, but can he swing from a web? No, he can't. He's a pig. It's fucking stupid and it's hilarious. But he needs a place to deposit the pig's waste and decides to put a pig crap silo in the backyard. And as Marge says, the silo is leaking, and Homer says it's not leaking, it's overflowing. So he needs to dispose of it. She's like, you need to dispose of that properly. He's on his way to take it to the public pig crap disposal center. I don't know how you dispose of pig crap in a safe way. But he's like
Why'd
on
you
his
look
way.
at me? I don't know.
I don't know. Did you seem like you'd be a person that might know that, John? He's on his way to dispose of the pig crap and gets a call from Lenny that the health inspector has closed down the donut shop and they're giving away free donuts. So Homer freaks out. He's like, oh shit, I got to get rid of this pig crap so I can get over to the donut shop. And he dumps it in the lake. And that creates mega pollution in Springfield. The EPA decides to shut down Springfield. The EPA run by Russ Cargill, who is voiced by the great Albert Brooks.
Yeah.
Who famously voiced Hank Scorpio from season 8, episode 2 of The Simpsons. Yes, I know that off the top of my head. Where he plays the evil billionaire who recruits Homer to like help him destroy the world at his different nuclear power plant. But he is petitioning President Schwarzenegger, which always pisses me off that they made him President Schwarzenegger. It's like, it's McBain. And it's like, I know they made a movie and they put it out for mass audiences, but like, who doesn't watch The Simpsons and know that it's McBain of the people that are going to see the movie, right? I don't know. Like, it just seems to me that they were like, our joke is going to be too inside. We have to make it broader.
Let's make it dated.
So we're just going to call him President Schwarzenegger. But he convinces him to select Plan 3 without reading it because he was selected to lead, not to read.
Yes.
And that plan involves putting a giant dome over the city of Springfield to block it off from the rest of America so that the pollution cannot affect the rest of the country.
Very American solution.
Yes, absolutely. Just pretend it doesn't happen. You know, they have Tom Hanks doing a commercial for the new Grand Canyon where nothing ever is or was because that's where Springfield
Mr. Hanks,
was.
you're tussling my hair a little too hard.
This movie's fucking great. Like, but you know, basically the town finds out that it was Homer who caused that and they run him out of town. They flee to Alaska to get away from the angry mob of their friends and neighbors who want to kill them all. And they somehow escape the dome through a sinkhole and get away to Alaska and, try to figure out how to save Springfield. So, the plot of the movie is it's interesting. Like, it's The Simpsons. It's like, they're a center-left kind of thing, but they're also, like, very much criticizing the EPA in this movie, which is it's kind of an interesting dynamic. But the movie is really funny. It's kind of taking Homer to the extreme as The Simpsons has done over the years, where like, what if we just made this guy as dumb as possible? Like, what if he can't like really speak English that good? And like, what if he just like doesn't understand words and how to spell things? And they really make him as dumb as they can, but that's just kind of how the show has gone, right? That's not really them doing anything different. But I think one of the things that works really well in the movie, the humor is great. I think sometimes the all-time great Simpsons episodes that really stand the test of time sometimes are the ones that aren't necessarily as funny, but the ones that are really diving into Homer and Marge's relationship and exploring why they are together and how that relationship works. And there are some really sweet moments in the movie where like there are parts of the movie where you're concerned that like are Homer and Marge gonna like just divorce? Like, is this the end of The Simpsons? Are they gonna like stop doing this? Like, it's The Simpsons. They're never going to end, unfortunately. So like, of course, that's not gonna happen. But those moments feel earned and feel real. And Marge, of course, is like the victim of this relationship, and she's gonna like fall for Homer's stupid charm at the end of the day, like she always does. But those moments feel very real and just a lot better than The Simpsons has done in a really long time. I think there's some early Simpsons that deals with that in a really fascinating way that works on a level probably better than The Simpsons movie does.
Yeah.
But I was really impressed with the way that they were able to pull that off in the movie. So yeah, I mean, I think that the movie is really great. If you have not seen The Simpsons at all, you can still watch the movie and have a really good time with it. It's really funny. There's a lot of fun gags in it. I love the visual gag of Bart going naked on his skateboard down to Krusty Burger, just like hiding his dick the whole way until you see nothing but his dick. It's just like
it's a real flaunt of like what they're able to do.
Oh yeah, we couldn't do this on TV, but we can draw a child's dick and balls in a movie and just get away with it. One of my favorite jokes of all time in The Simpsons is in the movie when they shut down the lake and they put this barrier up around it, and they're like, okay, nobody can dispose of things illegally in the lake anymore, and the cops are like monitoring the lake, and Fat Tony and his goons are dragging a dead body up to the lake, and it's like a sack with feet sticking out of the end. And Wiggum looks at him, he goes, "Now nothing in the lake." And Fat Tony goes, "Okay, I guess I'll put my yard trimmings in a car compactor." And they drag the body off, and Lou goes, "Chief, that looks like a dead body in there." And Wiggum goes, "That's what I thought too. Kelly said yard trimmings. Gotta learn to listen, Lou." just some funny Chief Wiggum shit, like taking the wrong observation of the situation and thinking he's smart is just hilarious to me. But yeah, I know both of you have seen this, maybe not as many times as I have, but curious to hear both of your thoughts on the Simpsons movie.
Actually, I don't think that I've watched the Simpsons movie since I saw it in theaters. And when I saw it in theaters, I really liked it. And it had some of that. I definitely get that same sense of heart that you were talking about, especially in Marge and Homer's marriage and relationship. And I thought about like the episode, when I watched that movie, I thought about the episode when Homer eats fugu. And it's like a really early episode, but that one has like such a gut punch because it genuinely is like a man coming to terms with his own death and his wife knowing and the kids not. And like, there's so much that's about that that's like so heartfelt and beautiful. And the movie reminded me of that and tapped into it. And I was like, after a while, I kind of forgot when Homer was shouting about Gambler and his neon claws and other dumb shit involving the boogeyman. I had indexed a lot more on, or I like really relied on The Simpsons for the chuckle humor. And when I went to the movie, I was somehow surprised that like, oh yeah, it has that heart. I forgot about this. But yeah, I haven't seen it since. I want to watch it again though. When you're bringing it up, I got to go find a place to watch it and stream it somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I know you'll like it again on a rewatch.
Same. I know I watched it in the theater, and I remember liking it then, but I know I have not watched it since. And every once in a while, I think about like, hey, I should go back and visit that. I do think it fell at a time where like I had already stopped watching Simpsons. Right, there was kind of like a period of like absolutely watching the new episode, and also coming home and turning on and watching reruns of previous seasons. It peaked. And by the time this movie had come out, I was definitely just kind of like, I probably was still rewatching old episodes, but not even keeping up with what was happening.
The show was clearly past its prime at this point when the movie came out.
Yeah. And I think I had my doubts about like, all right, well, what can they do in a movie? What's a movie? What's different there? And I remember being like, okay, it was like the right amount of more, and made sense to be a movie. Like it worked. But then weirdly, I'm like, that was it. I didn't watch it again. And I kind of also still haven't watched The Simpsons until like recently, a couple years ago with my kids now old enough. I started watching from episode 1 because I wanted to work my way through.
Nice.
Until I got tired of it. So I was like, I'll work my way through, figure out when it really kicks off. Which really honestly is like season 3. Like season 2 starts to hit some things, and season 3 starts to hit, and then 4 is like this high of so many memorable episodes, and then it kind of starts to trail again, and I got tired of it. And like I'll go back and I'm like, man, I enjoy them. Like when it was at its high, it was absolutely its high. It's kind of sad that it just kind of carries on now.
Yeah.
And I think that's just where like every time I hear about The Simpsons or see that they're doing something, I'm always kind of now just like, eh. And yeah, the movie kind of comes by and I'm like, yeah, maybe I'd watch that, but there's just like not enough drawing it to me. Hearing you talk about it again, like, immediately in my mind, the like yard trimmings came back because I do remember that gag and have said that. I was kind of like thinking through the plot and I'm like, all right, I remember a few things of it. It's definitely, I would say, I need to go back and rewatch it.
I just remember the cliffhanger gag because I had a genuine reaction in the theater.
Where they jumped Springfield Gorge?
No, it was where they were just like, to be continued.
Right now?
Yeah, right now. I was like, I got really indignant for a moment and then immediately settled back in and laughed. That's great.
Yeah, this came out too where I was like, so I was introduced to The Simpsons and I was probably about 13, and like really got into them, and I was watching like reruns after school almost every day for a couple years. And then like I watched an episode with my dad. There was like a Henry VIII parody, and Homer was like, was playing Henry VIII, and Lisa was like, why can't I be king? Why can't I take over after you? And Homer goes, grow a penis or get out. And Lisa goes like, and tries to grow a penis. And then Homer just like gets her out of the castle. And my dad turns to me and goes, you're not watching this anymore. And so there was like a couple years of like Simpsons drought where I was just like craving the Simpsons and couldn't get it.
You wanted it.
And then finally, this came out the summer before my senior year in high school. And I was like, Dad, some friends invited me to go see the Simpsons movie. And he was like, I don't care if you want to go. That's
nice
fine.
cover story.
Like, all right, cool. And then I went to see that, and it was just like everything that I had been craving for years that I hadn't been getting. And it was like a great experience for me in the theater at the time. But I do think it really holds up. And I think like, that heart that the movie has that the older Simpsons seasons had, I think that's something that's missing from other animated shows that have kind of spun off of the Simpsons and been influenced by them, Family Guy and South Park and things like that get the comedy but don't get the character and the heart of the Simpsons. And Family Guy, I don't even know if that really gets the
anymore.
Comedy. South Park like is hilarious, but it's like I don't really give a shit about anybody in the show, and that makes it kind of take it or leave it for me. Like I can watch an episode randomly out of nowhere and laugh at it and then leave it and not feel like I need to come back to it. And the Simpsons, it's just stuck with me over the years because it does have that heart and that depth to it that a lot of animated shows haven't had, that have come out of its wake. I think Rick and Morty is a show that kind of has that in a weird nihilistic fucked up way to some degree. But it's not like The Simpsons has like earnest heart to it that like it's not cheesy, like it actually works. And it's a show about like a working class American family and the struggles that they go through, and it's not sugarcoating anything or acting like the kids are well-behaved angels like every other fucking like sitcom from the era did. And like it's honest about marital problems and addiction and different things like that I think are pretty fascinating. Like it's a more realistic show than I think people realize. Like, oh, The Simpsons is like a stupid cartoon, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it takes advantage of the animation format and does, shit that you wouldn't be able to do in a live action show, but it does feel a lot more realistic than a lot of other shows about American families.
Yeah. I mean, I think about when you were talking about Homer and Marge episodes, I also thought about the Mindy episode where Homer has like a potential affair with the character voiced by Drew Barrymore, I think, in that episode.
His coworker.
Yeah, his coworker who like has all the same tendencies, and it has that.
She also loves donuts.
Yeah, that real meditation on like, people feeling like, did I really marry the one, or like what's happening with this relationship? Like it just is an interesting exploration. Whereas something like, like Married with Children would probably play that for like more of an edge and make it like a thing where the crowd whoops and hollers. But yeah, Simpsons knows kind of when to dial it back, and other times it'll just go absolutely insane, and it's fantastic both ways. Until those later seasons,
yeah. There really are a lot of episodes with heart that dwell on. And it's not just that. Like sometimes the episodes I like of Lisa like challenging, what is my family, right? And then always kind of coming back to him of like, well, it is my family, and this is the way we are, kind of things like that are enjoyable. For me, I kind of hit in the time that The Simpsons was the cultural phenomena, and it weirdly was something that my parents were kind of like, yeah, we shouldn't be watching this, but it was just hard to look away because of like what it was, like what the force that it was at that time. When South Park came out, that was the one where I would come around the corner and my dad was watching it and would quickly change the channel and pretend like he wasn't watching it because we weren't supposed to watch it. And I think that the way that when you look at the first season and the Tracy Ullman skits, they are trying to find this footing, and the Ullman skits really are good at what they're supposed to be, which is just this crass family that, you're right, is like a real family, all the goods and bads. Homer choking out Bart, which apparently they don't do anymore. Being kind of like, yeah, there was families then. Like, that was kind of the way things could be. And then the show in the first season really just is the like, haha, Bart's funny kind of thing. And Homer is there somewhat, but when it kind of transforms into that riding off of Homer and his endearingness in his stupidity is when it works. And when it hits to he can't fucking read in the later system is when it loses it. It loses that heart.
Yeah.
And he's like as absolutely stupid as it needs to be for the gag, and gives up like who the Simpsons are, like tangibly are. And even those side characters, like they create like a one-off fucking character. Like Disco Stew is the one that always comes to mind for me. Yeah. Because like he's a one-off gag about a jacket that didn't get finished, right? It's supposed to be Disco Stud, and it says Stew, and he picks it up, and then it's like, and then we just kept bringing back Disco Stew because we thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like that character becomes a character you love in the Simpsons, in the town. That is this character that it grew into.
That's funny. And, like talking about these Homer Marge moments and the heart of the show, there's a really incredible moment in the movie where you're unsure whether their marriage is going to make it. And Marge tapes a video for Homer to like explain what's going on, and that like she's like, going back to Springfield to try to save the town, and Homer doesn't want to do that. And she tapes it over their wedding video, and the end of that like monologue cuts to the wedding video, and there's an early episode of The Simpsons, I think it's probably season 2, where they talk a lot about Homer and Marge's relationship, and they play the song. I don't know what the title of the song is, but it says "Why Do Birds Suddenly Appear?" I don't know if that's what the song is called, but they use that song so effectively in The Simpsons that whenever I hear it in anything else, like it's a song that is used in things, I'm always like, oh, you can't do that. Like that is like Simpsons IP at this point. Like they have used it so incredibly effectively, but they do it in that scene, and they play that song in the wedding video, and it's like pulling from one of the most intimate moments of The Simpsons in the very early days and bringing that into the movie and conjuring up those emotions. And I think it's just really, really well done. And it's a lot more honest and clear-eyed about relationships than most movies or shows are, I think. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's really good. Fun question for you guys. Who is your favorite Simpsons side character, like outside of the core family?
God, man, we already named Disco Stew.
Doesn't have to be that obscure. Or it could be more obscure if you want.
I love Barney. I just can't not. Barney's both hilarious and tragic. And I loved him in the film festival episode.
Don't cry for me. I'm already dead.
It's so beautiful. He has the soul of a poet. You're very kind. Did something call you on your throat and die? Yeah. It didn't die. Just Barney, just so optimistic.
Oh man,
that's one that's actually stuck around in my family. The kids really like that bit, so we have that every once in a while. It didn't die. I like Mo, honestly, and it's sad that like the things that are funniest to me are when they use Mo as just like an absolute like just horrible end of a joke. Yes, he's just a punching bag. But I do like Mo.
That's awesome. I love Mr. Burns. Like it's just he's the most evil old man, and he's like they play jokes on just how evil and old he is all the time, and it's like he's like sometimes like he's 104, sometimes it's like oh, he was a soldier in World War I, and it's just like they play with his age all the time, which is just hilarious to me. And like his health,
like Doesn't he have like the second phone number or some shit like that? Like,
Yeah. His social security number is like 0000002 or something. I love the gag where he has like every disease and like they're all fighting against each other so they can't kill him. It's like, so you're saying syndrome? Yeah, we call it Three Stooges syndrome. So you're saying I'm invincible? Oh no, even a mild breeze. I'm invincible. And then I also really love Jasper, the old man with the beard.
Oh yeah, like, that's a paddling.
Yeah. That's a paddling.
I always think about him
paddling a canoe. Oh, you bet that's a paddling.
Him getting lasered in the face and being like, my vision, it's back. I can see it. He gets lasered again, and he's like, I'm blind. Well, easy come, easy go. Yeah. Those are great characters. Yeah, I would say the only time that Mr. Burns I didn't like him being around was the episode where he loses all his money and Lisa helps him. And like that episode just is so sad to me. I was just like watching Lisa basically lose a bit more of faith in like humanity.
Yeah. It has to happen for Lisa, you know, eventually she has to grow up. But
but that one's brutal. So
yeah. Also, speaking of Lisa side characters, Bleeding Gums Murphy is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
He like,
Bloody Guts Murphy. We bid farewell to Bloody Guts Murphy.
Cool. All right, so if you couldn't tell, I am recommending The Simpsons movie.
We got to curtail this or we'll go all night.
Yeah.
You just open the floodgates.
Keep making old Simpsons quotes.
The song is Close to You by the Carpenters, by the way. That's what it's called.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Suddenly appear.
I also feel like
the dude from Mandy though is better than the Carpenters.
Yeah.
In that same vein, I feel like The Simpsons has ruined Peter Frampton for me too.
Oh yeah.
Every time he's the "Do you feel?" I just get ripped back to that episode. Youth is eating my lunch.
Oh gosh, you're bringing back memories.
That's funny.
Well, with that, we have 2 recommends so far. Let's get to me. And I'm bringing Neil Breen's latest film, Cade, The Tortured Crossing.
I want to see where my money's been going.
Please don't let them hurt me anymore.
Megan, what do you know about the patient trafficking that's going on here? What do you know about the gene editing research? You must know something.
There's been a huge increase in the amount of kidnapping of the youths and runaways that are being used for medical testing. We'd like you to keep a lookout for any irregularities that might happen at your lab.
We can make a difference with their kind. We will make a difference.
Which on the Letterboxd review or the Letterboxd entry has all capital letters, but when I watched the movie, that title card had a mix of lowercase and uppercase that looked like somebody just hammered it out and put it on the screen.
Wait, like just random lowercase and uppercase?
It was like capital C on Cade and then like a lowercase T on Tortured.
Okay.
And
just like written like a normal English sentence.
Yeah, basically. Like, all right, cool. Copy and paste it from my Word document. So Neil Breen, if you're not familiar with his work, Neil Breen is also known as the Breenius, because he's like a Wizoian filmmaker. He has a lot of ego in what he does, but he believes that he's unlike Wizow as an artist. Breen does not cave to demand. His films don't do midnight screenings. He's made it very clear. He only does things that are very big professional jobs, and he'll only let them be for like matinee or in the evening, but no midnight stuff.
Yeah, because they never show bad movies during the day.
That's right. They never do. When did you see The Marvels? Was it midnight?
No, it was 8:05.
Okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, point proven. So yeah, I just, there's so much I could say about this movie. It's fucking wild. And it's not good. And you know me, I love my trash, and I've seen 4 of Neil Breen's other films. I think he has like 6 now, and I haven't seen one of them. And
you mean you haven't seen one? You've seen 5 of the 6.
Yeah, I've seen 5 of the 6.
No, I haven't seen one of them. Might sound like I haven't
Sorry.
seen any of
them.
them.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. I've seen a shameful amount of them, Dixon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just want to make sure the audience knows what they're dealing with here.
Yeah. So I kind of wrote it down, but my review says it better than I can probably whip it up now, which is over the course of Breen's career, each successive feature has stripped away a piece of previous production's overhead. So outdoor sequences, indoor sets, even cast and crew have been whittled down with a vicious Roger Corman-esque efficiency. And this film just serves to prove like that he's in the height of what I think people are calling the green screen era, where he, much like Marvel, shoots everything on a green screen. But unlike Marvel, he does not have all the sophisticated tools or filmmaking know-how to make it at least somewhat visually bearable.
I would disagree with that statement.
I knew you were going to.
You don't need really any technical know-how to make something look as good as a Marvel movie.
Well, imagine if you would. My surprise.
I was going to say, I don't know that. I don't know that you can have the complete ineptitude to reach the level of a Neil Breen effects work. Like
it truly, he is some kind of lightning in a bottle, just shooting films out. Although I think that this most previous one, Cade, the Tortured Crossing, is probably the last Breen film I will watch after this. I don't think I want to go further on because I feel like it's getting into this ethical territory of should you support a man through a mental crisis? Like, should you continue to feed his mental problems?
So what you're telling me is you're going to pirate his future films?
Yeah, probably. Allegedly. Maybe not. But like this film, so I've been dancing around it because it's just so fucking hard to talk about.
What the fuck is this about?
So there's another film called Twisted Pair in which Neil Breen introduces this concept of these twins, Cade and Kale, who come from another planet.
Fucking lettuce?
Yeah. Or like they're like aliens or they're androids or some weird fucking genetic clone shit. That's the one I haven't seen, so I don't really know. But they do magic shit. And a Neil Breen film is not complete without doing magic shit that makes him some kind of god, which strokes his ego, and doing it to people who are corrupt and usually politicians or presidents of banks. I don't really know. In one film, there's literally a guy who's like, I lied to all of the people who use the bank. I am the president of the bank. That's like the dialogue. That's literally what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like you're already getting samples, Dixon, of like what Breen feels like. He's still not as self-aware as Tommy Wiseau is. He doesn't know that the movies he's making, at least theoretically, I think, unless he's playing the best con I've ever seen.
Wait, Tommy Wiseau is self-aware?
He's self-aware that he
point.
can make a shit ton of money if he makes bad movies. And that's what I mean by self-aware is like, he'll just try to do it to make money. Breen makes them because he has an artistic vision. And that vision's not great. But, it's what's worse than 2020. I don't even know. What's the lowest thing? Is it 020? I don't know how eyes work.
The first number is always 20. Yeah. And the higher the second number is, the worse it goes.
It reversed
you can
the
have
fraction.
better than 2020 vision. You have like 2017 vision.
Oh, okay.
And it means the thing you see at 20 feet away, you see as if it were 17 feet away.
Damn. Okay.
And so when you have like 2080 vision, that means like you see with the clarity of something that's 80 feet away, even though it's 20 feet away.
Okay. Well, Breen's got like
I have terrible vision, folks.
20, 30,000, whatever, infinity feet. Beyond the infinite 20 is what Breen has. Yeah, and so in this movie, he takes one of the characters from the previous one, Twisted Pair, and he puts them into a different context, which I'm not sure if it's a sequel. I don't know if it's a standalone thing. I don't have enough context, and also Breen's just not great at conveying. He makes his own lexicon basically of like film techniques. He's never gone to a film school. He's just done this all on his own because he's an architect in Las Vegas. And so with Cade, he's like trying to tell the story of one of these twins who's superhuman, who donates to a mental hospital that is caring for only 6 people who are in rehab. And then
the whole hospital has 6 people.
Yes. And it looks like trash. The entire hospital looks like trash because in this new movie, Breen exclusively uses only stock photos for any environment that he is in a scene.
Wow.
There is
on the green screen. There's just stock photos in the background.
Yes. Yeah. It fucking broke my mind because the first 30 minutes of this feature are like, you're in a big mansion and then they'll show a stock photo of a castle. Then they'll go right into a stock photo of a mansion and then the mansion stairs. And Breen clearly on his green screen put like apple crates on top of each other.
No.
And he tries to actively sync people to it. And so all of the actors are roughly positioned where they should be, but you can still tell it's all stock, and the green screen fuzz around them every time just makes it more apparent. And he not only does that, but he adds, when he needs crowd scenes, he only hired like 8 people to be in this entire movie. So he just takes stock video of business people talking and he masks all around it. And you just see these flat images of a dude pointing to a clipboard and another person nodding. And
my God.
They play on loop, but some scenes they don't. They'll just stop and freeze mid-frame and just stay there. I took my brother to this. Mark, I'm so sorry, man. I'm so sorry. I wish you would return my calls.
No, you're full of shit, John. You took him to a Neil Breen movie. You can't apologize for that. Like that's on you and him both. Like,
hey, before this, Neil Breen had shot some outdoor scenes in the Las Vegas desert with actors, and he didn't use stock footage of anything. He was like,
he used stock footage video.
Yeah, he didn't use stock footage video.
Like not stills.
Yeah, no stills.
It's some stock footage tiger.
Of like a tiger. Yeah, he loves tigers. They're in every movie. This movie's no different. It also has a tiger that shows up for no reason in a scene where he fights it, and it looks like it came straight out of like Tekken on PlayStation 1. This like tiger stands up and starts punching him and he's blocking it. And the only way this conflict ends after like 5 minutes of watching it is Neil Breen blocks the tiger's paws and goes, "There's somebody coming." And then the tiger goes, "Oh shit." And like immediately like gets down and leaves.
Wait, does the tiger talk?
It doesn't talk, but it turns into a hot woman.
What?
I mean, it's, that's just kind of what it is.
Was that part of the stock footage?
No, it was clearly somebody that Breen like filmed at a different time. But yeah, anyways, he doesn't make films anymore. He makes like a sensory collage where it's just like stock photos and people reading their lines over them and like overacting, and like the music is fucking awful because he probably makes it as well. But the most incredible thing about it is that as a filmmaker, he's the only person I've ever seen who continues to devolve after each movie he makes. Like the first movie, I think he shot it on 35 millimeter and like he had scenes and sets and he cut away to things and he had like effects and interiors, exteriors, all that
now he's
shit.
shooting it on like an iPhone 7.
Yeah, and it's like in a green screen thing, and he's still posting videos about how successful he is as a filmmaker, because I think that he's the perfect combination of like somebody who loves film and absolutely hates spending money. And so like everything he's doing is just shaving off how efficient he can make the films. And I have a feeling he's like racing AI to see like who can make the most incohesive film at a particular point in time.
Well, you said he's funding these himself, right?
Yeah, he gets like some investors, like I don't know who would invest in it, but he gets some people on board. And then he goes and makes his movies and like publishes them, and he takes them to festivals and he's gotten the People's Choice Award at a few festivals. And I know it's not because everybody who went and saw that voted for it, because there's not enough people that would do that. I think that he just put the call out and everybody rides the wave of irony and votes him in. And that's where my kind of opening statement of like, I think this is the last Breen film I'll watch that's new, just because I feel like I am perpetuating bad habits and bad filmmaking, and a misunderstanding is happening that I don't want to be part of this bandwagon anymore. I'll watch old Breen films. It was fun back then, but like moving forward, whatever he does, it's just torment. Like Mark and I laughed for the first 30 minutes of this movie because it was so uncomfortable and weird, and just we'd never fucking seen anything like it. And then we realized there was a whole other hour and 10 minutes left.
Oh.
And it was like, I said there were 6 people in this rehab center. The entire movie's journey, its arc, is all 6 of those people have to learn to rehabilitate themselves and then become self-sufficient, because Neil Breen's helping them do that because he's a hero. And so like each of them has the exact same lines in the exact same scene, several times over. They wake up in the rehab center and they go, "You just got to give me my stuff, man. I'm jonesing." And they do shit like that. And then the next scene is them learning to be spirit warriors. And one of them grows a fucking falcon's wing. And then they fight a bunch of bad guys at the end because they're rehabilitated now. And I'm like, that's not how a rehab center works. And I don't think that's how spiritualism works.
Wait, like, so these are a bunch of like addicts who are being trained to be cops?
Yes, but they're fighting corrupt individuals who exploit nonprofit medical foundations, which is like not really established well at all. But they just make it. There's a few scenes where they have like, you know, the Batman scene of a hero schmoozing with all the rich people, and all the rich people are like, "We really fucked over those poors. We have that rehabilitation center. We're smuggling all of the nonprofit donations into our various Swiss bank accounts." They like just say that shit. And then Neil Breen comes in and he's like, "That's illegal." Like, and he gets revenge. Probably the only thing that I would say about this movie that I really want to share with everybody, if the clips of it come out, look for it. There's an opening scene where he establishes himself as a superhero because he gets hit by a stock video bus and he reacts to it, but he gets right back up and he flies away and saves a man who's being kidnapped. And when the man's being kidnapped, the goon that's kidnapping him turns into like 12 goons, like Power Rangers style, Ryan. Okay. And then Neil Breen goes, "Let's make this an even fight." And he's like worse than Craig Denny. He's like more monotone than Craig Denny ever could be.
Oh my.
And so he's just
does he have like a bigger pot belly than Craig Denny?
No, he's like oddly slender in bones. He looks like a weird folklore creature. But like he goes, "Let's make this an even fight." And then it's a video of him moving in circles like he's about to do some kind of fake martial arts. But they slow it down to get that kind of like layering of him. Like there's multiple of him in the frame because it's moving that slow. And it's meant to convey that there's like 30 of him that he can divide into 30 and punch a dude with that same power. But it just looks like a rad PowerPoint presentation graphic, or like what somebody would think is a rad PowerPoint graphic in like a high school presentation. It'd be like, "Yeah, this is my presentation of Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, and here's John Steinbeck was fighting for," and it would just be like a gif of that,
like flies across it. Yeah,
everybody doubling off. Yeah, thank you, Tyler, for your presentation. No problem.
Why does he have superpowers?
That's just what Breen slowly evolved into. In the first movie he ever made, he didn't have them, but he was being cheated on and he fixed his marriage or some shit. And in the second one, he got hit by a car and got telepathy. And
wait, are they all sequels of each other?
They kind of build on him being the same character. It's like a multiverse, a Breeniverse. I don't know.
Oh dear God.
You can look up compilations on YouTube of the fine acting on display, and you'll get a good enough giggle out of them. You don't have to subject yourself to the rest of it. But I heard a lot of hype around this one. Even our boy Gino Hino, he was telling me I'd have a good time. And I think that he was on that irony shit too. He probably just didn't want me to know that I was going to suffer for like an additional amount of time. But I don't blame you, Gino. I understand. I understand where you're coming from. It was fun for 30 minutes. Anyways.
So I have never heard of Neil Breen other than from you, John, and I've never seen any of his movies. How the fuck did you find this dude? Why have you repeatedly gone to see his movies? What is his deal?
So I found this guy. It was either a mix of Red Letter Media or it was my buddy in Los Angeles, who also is a trash fiend. Shout out to James. He and I would watch The Room drunk every night in college, like for a really long time.
Every night?
It's like every night was what it felt like. I mean, like just looking back on it, I was like, we watched The Room a shit ton of times.
Did you toss a football back and forth while doing so?
We didn't.
I should have missed opportunity. Yeah.
I did ask him how his sex life was, but he told me it was confidential. So yeah, like he finds things, he'll send me things, and I'll send him things, and we're just always on the hunt for it. But it's either Red Letter Media or James. And when I found Neil Breen, I had that same like full body pain that I had when I watched The Room the first time, where like it just physically hurt to see filmmaking so poorly handled, and yet know that there was such a strong vision behind it. that was trying to bring it up. I don't know. And so like kind of got fascinated with him because everything that he does, it's that same, you're forming like a psychological profile and like, where Tommy Wiseau's insecurities are based on The Room. And thanks to the Disaster Artist, it also helps. But like you watch a Breen film and slowly over time, you're like, okay, he always has this kind of character, this archetype. He has these other characters he sets up. Like in one, he sets up an underage girl that comes and tries to hit on him. And she like gets naked in his bathroom and is about to take a bubble bath. And like
this dude has to be like 70, right?
Yeah. He's something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, with like dyed hair, trying to pretend like he's 35.
Yeah. And so like he's no John Dehart, but he's like he shows up and he's like, you can't keep doing this. Like she's been doing it several times or something. And it's one of those moments that like
stop hitting on me, you hot high schooler.
It's that moment where you're like, he's telegraphing so hard that he really wants you to think that he's so hot that a high schooler would want him, but also he's so morally righteous that he would tell them to fuck off and not come back.
Wow.
And I was like,
this is what Scott Pilgrim should have been.
Yeah. Who is this man? A lot of the movies, his plot points are resolved by him going, I happen to be the best hacker in the world out of nowhere, and be like, I've hacked all of the government secrets, all of them. Like that kind of shit. So yeah, really, that's why I found him, because of James at Red Letter Media, and I got into him because I'm really fascinated with these directors and their like psychology, and just like, what is driving you to make this in each film? This one being about medical corruption was interesting, and like being about rehab and drugs. I'm like, I don't know if Neil Breen's working through something with somebody he knows, but he's definitely not taking any advice on his filmmaking. Like there's definitely no outside consultation that can be happening.
Yeah, he definitely has this theme of like corrupt company, corrupt government thing that he's all hung up on.
It's like
but the only way to
that's not wrong.
Yeah.
Well, but his like the only way to fix it is to become a telepath,
to become a dictator who comes
dictator that fixes it all. Yeah, it's not good resolution.
Yeah, in this movie at one point, so it's called Cade the Tortured Crossing because I think artistically what he intended was the Tortured Crossing is rehabilitation. It's trying to kick addiction, which I think is like, that's actually a really beautiful, poetic way to say that. But it's presented in this like completely nonsensical way where he shows everybody freaking out about losing their drugs and becoming spirit warriors and fighting off bad guys who are corrupt in the medical industry. And it loses that, and it becomes instead just like, Cade is this godlike creature who can lead anybody through a healing process. And it's like way more of a Breen indulgence film than it is like him working through trauma. So like halfway through I was just so jaded. I was like, dude, this is all the ego trip now. Like there's not any, in other movies, he works through like, sometimes it's like friends commit suicide and that kind of stuff. It's completely mishandled in a way that's hilarious, which you wouldn't think that would happen, but he's still like kind of trying to work through deeper material. And now it's just like a Marvel movie. He's just on green screen and he's a fucking hero. And that's all he does.
Does he shoot lasers from his hands?
He might have. He jumped really
there's
far
definitely
one
times
time.
where he's got various powers. I think so.
Yeah.
Things definitely explode into an explosion plug-in that is just the stock plug-in for something blowing up.
This is also
the same one every time.
Yeah, I will also say like this movie it had some moments where like the characters, there was like a whole scene where the characters broke out into dance for no reason, and it was fully choreographed. Okay. And by fully, I mean it was partially done well, and like they kind of got it. And the camera kept rolling after they finished the dance. And they all high-fived, and you could just tell it got real for a moment, that you were just witnessing actors that were so delighted that they did a thing. And that has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. And anyways, the person at the end of the movie, somebody in the bathroom when I went, was like, that felt like he filmed 30 minutes and just needed to pad out the rest of it to make a film. And I was like, that's exactly what Breen does. So
just having a casual conversation with the guy in the urinal next to you.
Yeah. Well, when you've seen Neil Breen, sometimes you just gotta let that guard down.
When we talk about bad movies, like everything that John watches, the Room is often brought up as like the worst movie of all time, right? And I think that it is a certain low bar.
It's
but
a uniquely bad movie.
Yeah.
But it's not the worst movie. Yeah.
It is a movie. Like the characters are defined. It's watchable. There is a plot. It actually has the like conflict, rising action, of a script. It does feel like an Alien digested movies and then crapped out something kind of like a movie. But there is that level below it that like a Neil Breen where it functionally misses everything that should make it a movie. The plot is kind of incomprehensible. If the effects work is even worse on this and filmed even worse. Like even his first few movies, there are like 12-year-olds that are making things on YouTube that look better and are better. You have to try to be this lazy in what you're doing. It's amazing.
It you know what it reminds me of? It is the epitome of like a boomer film, like not like a film for boomers. That's like, classic Hollywood shit or something.
A film made by a boomer.
But like a film made by a boomer. Yeah, it's exactly that, because like all of the tells within it are this dilution of what they've seen in like classic Hollywood. It's, thinking that everybody will recognize the archetypes that live in your head, and that they'll recognize that just, when you're announcing that there's a flood of corruption and I'm going to stop it, that like anybody would feel emotion from you saying that, other than you being in like an echo chamber stroking your ego. And so, yeah, Breen's films, like where Wiseau was wounded and traumatized in a way when he was like writing The Room, Breen writes it from like, he's been reading like Newsmax and shit. And he just wants to like share his message with the world that somebody needs to be Jesus, damn it. And then he's going to be the one to do it.
Where's Willem Dafoe when you need him?
Oh man, Willem Dafoe would do some fucking great work in a Breen film.
That would be amazing.
Willem Dafoe does great work in everything.
That is exactly right.
I don't care what it is. Willem Dafoe is great in it.
So, anyways, all of this ramble of Breen and trying to explain, you can just tell how like I'm just exasperated trying to explain what the fuck goes through Breen's head. Fighting a tiger that turns into a hot woman, rehabbing 6 people into spirit warriors, and one of them grows a wing and it's a falcon, maybe, who knows? And then like, oh yeah, I didn't even mention, he just falls in love with one of the corrupt orderlies from the mental asylum that's been stealing his money. She just falls in love with him for no reason, and they kneel on a stock photo of a bridge and they kiss. And I was just like, God damn it. What the fuck is this movie? And you could tell too by that scene when she kisses him, they have one close-up shot and they keep cutting back to it because she was like, I'm not going to kiss you more than once.
Kiss,
I'm only going to do a kiss one take. Yeah, it's like that kind of thing. Anyways, wouldn't recommend Cade, The Tortured Crossing. You irony fans out there who watch it because it's hip and cool to do that, don't do it this time. It's not going to do it for you. You're going to spend the first 30 minutes having a great time, and then you're going to either leave the theater or you're just going to sit there and be tortured. That's your Tortured Crossing. So,
is there a Neil Breen film that you would recommend? So like if somebody is curious as to the ideas that you have put before us here this evening and is like, you know what, I want to just dip my toe in the Neil Breen pond and just get one experience, what would that be? And is there even one that would be enjoyable, or are you just a glutton for punishment?
There is one that would be enjoyable. Has to be with friends. Please bring libations.
Do not watch Alone Sober.
Yeah, do not watch Alone Sober, because you'll be like, what the fuck? Why did John tell me to do? And that one is Fateful Findings. I think Fateful Findings is the most accessible, which is a weird way to qualify a Breen film. But it is like you and your friends put it on, and it's like, okay, it's if you've seen The Room and you're like, that movie's crazy, and your friends are also aware of it, but your friends have never seen Neil Breen, just be like, hey, I heard about Fateful Findings. Let's like get together and watch that. Cause you'll all be communally traumatized by how bad it is, but it's about Breen getting hit by a car, getting magic powers, cheating on his wife, but making it okay somehow, and dealing with a friend's suicide, and then exposing government corruption at the end of it, all while being an author a la Stephen King.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah. See, like he's doing like
in the mouth of sadness.
Yeah. Well done, bra fucking bro. Oh man. Yeah, that's basically it. And it's just, you can tell the plot gymnastics he's trying to go to make sure that he can round all of the bases of how awesome he is within one feature. So
oh,
yeah.
Man.
So Fateful Findings, I'd recommend it. Cade the Tortured Crossing. No, I think we're hitting we're past the prime at this point. And so that will bring things to a close for us here at Afterthoughts. We have a recommend for the Scott Pilgrim Netflix series that upends a bunch of things. There's a asterisk on that too, Ryan. You have to have seen Scott Pilgrim or read
you should
the manga,
watch
probably.
the Scott Pilgrim movie. Really.
Highly recommended that you watch that movie. And if you do watch that movie, feel free to listen to our episode about it.
Please do that. Yeah.
And then we had a recommendation for
The Simpsons Movie. Also, I think it is a good entry point into The Simpsons. If you have not explored The Simpsons television show, but want to understand the vibe and get into it, I think The Simpsons Movie is actually a good place to start. But then if you want to watch the show, do not watch anything after season 13 for sure. And like, even then 12 and 13 get rough, but there's some good episodes that are worth it. 1 through 11 are pretty gold, and you know, go watch all the shit from those seasons. So
yeah, and watch the TV show up to that point. Yeah, watch the movie up to that point. It'll be a good time, guaranteed. Our buddy Jim never believed us. He wouldn't watch it.
We were trying to get Jim to watch The Simpsons for years, and then he finally like reluctantly did. He's like, I don't know if I like this, and then all of a sudden he was just dropping Simpsons quotes to us randomly without us prompting. We're like, wait, what? When did this happen? He's like, oh yeah, I kept watching. It's fucking great.
And he's just like rewatched like so many seasons, and just continues to do so. So yeah, you know, it'll make you a believer. It's a good time.
Yeah. I will caveat this recommend with a statement. I do have a T-shirt that says I voted for Kodos. Like I'm very deep into the Simpsons, and I have watched it since I was a kid. But I think the movie stands on its own, and it's very good, and you should seek it out.
Yeah. And then we have a refute for Cade the Tortured Crossing. While I was mildly impressed and possibly puzzled and thought maybe Neil Breen was developing a film language all his own, which would be cool. I don't think that he has the wherewithal and awareness to do so. He doesn't know filmmaking rules, so he doesn't know how to break them yet. So I wait for the day that he will know how to do that, and maybe he'll yield a really fucking cool movie. But until then, I'll just go back to his old filmography for now, and I'm
not going to hold my breath on that one.
Not watch anything else.
Yeah.
I'll stay away from it until I need reputable sources. 3 friends to have told me that the next Neil Breen film is good for me to actually go see it. I'm instituting that law. It's like Dixon needs that for us to like maybe recommend The Marvels to make him go. But yeah, anyways, so yeah, Cade the Torture Crossing, no. Fateful Findings, yes. If you're out there and you're really craving something so bad, yeah, sure, why not? Go for it. Bring your friends over. And thank y'all for listening. I have been your host, John Garcia. With me, as always,
Ryan King. If you ever travel back in time, don't step on anything. Even the slightest change can change the future in ways you can't imagine.
I wish I hadn't sat on that fish.
Always remember what your father told you on your wedding day. Oh my God.
And of course,
Michael Dixon, thanks for putting up with our Simpsons references.
Hey there, movie buffs, TV toughs, and all listeners in between. John here from the Afterthoughts podcast. I just wanted to drop in at the end of this episode and say thanks for listening. If you've got afterthoughts of your own to share, hit us up. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Afterpod, or jump into a conversation on our Discord server. You can find info for this and more at theafterpod.transistor.fm. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.